going to air it out down the field. Catch and the touchdown.
It's College Football Pick'em, presented by Harbor Jiu-Jitsu on AM 1490 Sports Betting Radio. Here's your host, Nick Kosko.
Welcome inside the College Football Pick'em right here on AM 1490 Sports Betting Radio. I'm your host, Nick Kosko. We are presented by Harbor Jiu-Jitsu. And I cannot believe it, but college football is over. It is over already. We went from September not knowing what we were going to have in college football, maybe only 3 conferences from the Power 5, and then all of a sudden we had a full season for the most part with truncated schedules. We had conference championship games, we had bowl games, we had the college football playoff, and of course we had a national championship game that it all culminated on Monday with Alabama coming out on top, 13-0, perfect season, 52-24 victory over number 3 Ohio State back on Monday night in Miami. And I'll tell you what, well, we had the over at least. We had the over of 75.5, so we do get one win out of Monday night. We had Ohio State +8, of course, and that did not happen after a miraculous, not even miraculous, a stunning second quarter from Alabama and one Devontae Smith, Heisman Trophy winner, the wide receiver for the Crimson Tide. He went absolutely off, and he had historic numbers in just 30 minutes of football, but he was knocked out of the game with an injury. So we went 1 out of 2 on our bets on Monday night to conclude the season. So we do finish 35, 39, and 2 on our game picks this season. Tough break to end the year, but hey, what are you going to do? At least you got the over-under prop right on Monday night. As I told you, it was going to be a shootout. It was going to be a shootout, but not in the sense that not necessarily. It didn't end up how I thought it was going to be, but again, we do get the overplay as one of our winners, but of course we lose because we trusted Ohio State to duplicate their performance as they did against Clemson, and they could not do it against Alabama. So that's pretty much how the season ends, with Alabama dominating Ohio State, so we'll dive into that. Urban Meyer also, speaking of college football, is not coming back to college football. He signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars to become their new head coach, and we talked about that last week a little bit, so we'll dive into that as well today, and we're also looking ahead to next year's national title odds, what that means. We'll get an early look, of course, at the 24/7 Sports Top 25 as well. So what else is to say about Monday other than wow and history, Alabama, and it all of a sudden you just want to talk about, okay, who's better? Is it Alabama of this year or is it LSU of last year? And of course LSU won 2 extra games because they played a full season, and they also dominated their way through most of their schedule as well, had a historic offense as well with Joe Burrow at quarterback, Clyde Edwards-Helaire at running back, and of course you had Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson at wide receiver, you had Thaddeus Moss at tight end. I mean, that was an all-loaded offense. But don't forget about LSU's defense last year. You know, you had guys like Grant Delpit in the back end, Patrick Queen at linebacker. So, I mean, just to get right off the bat, when you're comparing the two teams, the offenses are pretty equal. Maybe even Alabama's could be even better just because they're maybe a little bit more efficient this season, but the defense does not stack up to what LSU boasted on defense last year, considering LSU's almost the entirety of LSU's team ended up being drafted into the NFL last spring. So we'll see about Alabama, but they're going to have a lot of first-round picks, and as of course, you know, Mac Jones, the quarterback, he declared for the draft. Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle are expected to go. Waddle already declared. I don't think Smith officially did it yet, but of course he's going to go. He might be even the first wide receiver taken, if not Jamar Chase from LSU, who opted out of the season. Najee Harris is going to go to the NFL as well. So Alabama's going to have to retool for next year, but of course they can be set up with Bryce Young, their 5-star freshman quarterback this year. He'll be back next year. And of course, everybody had a free year in college athletics this year due to the coronavirus, so he's not losing a year of eligibility, but Bryce Young will be the quarterback next year. But we'll dive into that in a little bit as well. But Alabama, just putting it in the broad spectrum of what they did this year, they did not have a close game pretty much all season long. The only close game Alabama had this year was the SEC championship game against Florida, and even that you kind of figured, well, is Florida going to be able to do enough in this game to actually win? Everyone expected Florida to win, or excuse me, everybody expected Alabama to win that football game. no one really picked against Alabama all season long. I didn't even think they were going to lose the championship game to Ohio State. I just thought it'd be a lot closer. I mean, Alabama was perfect all year, and of course, you have the 13-0 record, so all records indicate they were perfect. But I'm just going down through their schedule, and you look at it, you go 38-19 over Missouri. Okay, they're getting their cakes out. Missouri, if they played again at the end of the year, Alabama probably beats them by 40. They beat Texas A&M 52-24, and of course Texas A&M was the big, they tried to make a big brouhaha over missing the college football playoff, considering their only loss on the year was to Alabama. They finished 9-1. They were the number 5 team in the country, but they lost by 28 to Alabama. So it just goes to show you. They beat Ole Miss by 15 in a 63-48 shootout. So again, there's that defense, a little bit wary earlier in the season, but again, they beat Ole Miss with 63 points. Then they host Georgia. Everyone remembers this game. Alabama's 3-0. Georgia, number 3 team in the country at the time. They beat them by 17. It wasn't really that competitive. They dominate Tennessee 48-17. They shut out Mississippi State 41-0. Then they go. They come back. They remain at home. They beat Kentucky 63-3. They dominate the Iron Bowl against Auburn 42-13. Then they go on the road, dismantle LSU 55-17. On the road against Arkansas, dismantle them 52-3. So, where was the competitive game? Florida, SEC championship game, 52-46 in that shootout. And realistically, that they kind of pulled away anyway, as Florida did. I'm pretty sure Florida got, if memory serves me correct, they pulled away because Florida got a late touchdown. And at one point, Alabama was up 28-10 in that football game. You go later in the game, let's see, you have 52-38. Yeah, so let's see. I think the score bug is a little bit messed up, but it remains the same. Near the end of the game, Alabama had a 2-score lead, and near the end of the game anyway. So Florida, whatever they were doing was purely academic. It wasn't really to get back in that football game. They really didn't have a chance. At the end of the game, they had one play with 16 seconds left, and Trask was sacked anyway. So, realistically, Florida was not going to win that game after all of that, considering it was a 28-10 lead. He had a 45-31 lead. I mean, Alabama was rolling through them, but Florida made it competitive. But that's pretty much it. Because then Alabama dominates Notre Dame in the playoff, and then they dominate Ohio State after a wild second quarter in the national championship on Monday. So the only question that remains is, besides comparing Alabama to last year's LSU team, is where does this rank among Nick Saban's teams? What does it mean for Nick Saban in the grand scheme of things? Well, I mean, you have to go back to his last undefeated team. I believe it was the 2012 team that dominated Notre Dame, and people have made this comparison all the time. But I would say, in totality, this is the best offense he's ever had, but not collectively as a team, considering the defense was shaky for about half a season, and then it really didn't come together towards the end, but they were also playing lesser SEC competition. And you saw what happened against another solid offense in the SEC. Florida put up 46 points on them. Heck, even Ole Miss put up 48 points on them earlier in the season. So you go back to what you saw out of this defense. Yeah, they stepped it up against Notre Dame, and they stepped it up against Ohio State. But by that point with Ohio State, they had pulled away enough in that second quarter where Ohio State just really couldn't muster any offense after that because, of course, Justin Fields was playing banged up. Not an excuse, but Justin Fields was playing banged up in that game. And other than throwing to Chris Olave, and he didn't have Trey Sermon for the entire game because he got hurt in the first play, Alabama was able to do what they do and basically pull away and shut down the opposing team. It's a Nick Saban coach defense. We can't forget this, but it's not his most talented defense. Definitely his most talented offense, not the most talented defense. But it is in fact one of the best teams we've seen in recent memory because of the way they played on offense and the way they dominated their competition, and they rolled through a unprecedented season where a lot of teams had to. Alabama dealt with COVID early on before the season started. And even after that, they had to deal with some positive cases popping up in the program. They got through it. They didn't lose a single game. We saw what COVID did with a bunch of college football teams this year, canceling games, postponing games. We saw the truncated schedules. So what they were able to do in the grand scheme of things and be this efficient particularly on offense, is nothing short of remarkable considering the circumstances. But it's probably not his best team ever. But it does bring into the question, is he the greatest college coach of all time? And yeah, I would say at this point, if you say otherwise, I don't know what you're watching, considering his 6 national championships at Alabama. He has another one at LSU, lest you forget, at 7 in total. That is the most by any coach. He's already passed Bear Bryant for most in college football history. I mean, he passes him, but he also tied him in Alabama titles, considering Bear Bryant had 6 at Alabama as well. But now Saban stands alone, and he's going to retool for next year, for 2021, and they're probably going to have just as good of maybe not just as good of a team, but they're obviously the favorite. They're going to be the favorite in the SEC. They're going to be the preseason number 1. They're probably going to be the national championship favorite going into next year. And based on the odds, they actually already are. I'll pull those up real quick. Yeah, they're plus 300. They're the favorites. Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State are the top 3 right now. I'll throw in Oklahoma because they're tied with Ohio State at plus 750. Clemson's plus 400. And they're losing their top quarterback too, Trevor Lawrence. He's going to the NFL draft. So how does Alabama retool necessarily? For Alabama next year, they are going to have Bryce Young. That's who Mac Jones had to beat out, by the way. Don't forget, people were thinking at the beginning of the season that Mac Jones might not be the starting quarterback for Alabama. They thought, well, you have this hotshot freshman, this Bryce Young, 5-star recruit. Is he going to be the savior this year after Tua goes off to the NFL? Bryce Young is... He's the talent. He's a talented quarterback, folks. I mean, he got a little play. I mean, he got some playing time in the championship game, only to hand it off, of course. But I mean, this kid was phenomenal in high school, and now you see the changing of the guard, so to speak, with Nick Saban and how he operates the offense. You notice how the SEC is all of a sudden the Big 12. It's wild, right? Everyone wants to say, well, the Big 12, all offense, no defense. Well, the SEC was kind of like that this year. Alabama, LSU last year, even LSU this year to an extent before they had all the injuries and opt-outs. Ole Miss, Mississippi State for the first game with his Mike Leach brought in his air raid offense. You can't forget about that. They had that epic display against LSU in the first game. Florida, it was all offense. But over the past couple of years, Nick Saban has been able to recruit players to his offense to fit the mold of the modern-day college offense. It's no longer, all right, let's have a solid quarterback like A.J. McCarron, right? Even A.J. McCarron was a pretty good quarterback in college. He's still in the pros, of course, as a backup. But he wasn't this push down the field like a Tua, like a Mac Jones for Alabama, or a Kyle Trask for Florida, a Joe Burrow for LSU last year. Heck, even a Matt Corral for Ole Miss this year. McCarron wasn't that type of quarterback for Alabama. He was very efficient, a little bit of a dink and dunk, occasionally throw the play action, get it downfield, but he had a dominant running back. You know, Alabama has had the dominant running backs of, you know, the T.J. Yeldons, the Derrick Henrys, the Mark Ingrams of the world. You know, this is a school that used to breed running backs. They still do. Najee Harris is an absolute force, and he might end up being a first-round pick anyway, a high first-round pick. By the way, he played this year, and you seemingly can't tackle this guy. He might be the next Derrick Henry, just a little bit smaller than Derrick Henry, but he might be the next Derrick Henry. But you notice these, you know, it's shifted now for Nick Saban and Alabama to the quarterback, the down-the-field gunslinger type of quarterback. Jalen Hurts first broke that mold. Because he could toss it downfield, but he was a dual threat. And you really didn't see that much from Nick Saban. Blake Sims really wasn't that type of quarterback. Maybe a little bit, but he was not exactly that, you know, the next generation of quarterbacks that are going to take over the college offense. Blake Sims really wasn't that for Alabama. But Jalen Hurts was. Jalen Hurts was a dual threat, can throw it downfield, got a decent arm in college, efficient, and could really run. And you saw that his first year. They went to the national championship game. It was a rematch with Clemson. Hurts scores a go-ahead touchdown late. You're thinking, wow, Alabama is about to win with a true freshman quarterback, and they're going to dominate for years to come, which they still did, of course. They lose the game. The next year, Hurts pretty much the same, efficient, and then he starts to struggle. Struggled a bit in the SEC title game. They eventually get to the championship game after winning the semifinals that year, and then everyone remembers the story. He struggles mightily in the first half. A new freshman quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa. Not a dual threat, but this type of quarterback that guys are recruiting now for college that are just absolutely otherworldly in high school, that are basically college ready when they're high school seniors, because they can bomb it downfield. They're highly efficient, and just the way they're trained and brought up as quarterbacks from a young age. Tua was this guy. He comes in second half, boom, they come all the way back, they win in overtime. You know the story. They win the title. Tua is the starter the next year. Hurts spells him a little bit. Then Tua struggles, and then Hurts comes in the SEC title game, saves the day. They win. Tua leads into the title game. They get blown up by Clemson. Then Hurts transfers, goes to Oklahoma. Heisman finalist. You know the rest. But the point remains, Saban has been able to recruit different types of quarterbacks now, i.e. the Hurts, the Tuas, the Bryce Youngs. Mac Jones was on that roster the entire time, by the way, so he saw it anyway. We just never heard of him. We knew he was there, but we didn't think it was going to be anything, because he recruited Bryce Young. Again, a 5-star recruit. And need I remind you, he threw for 4,500 yards and 58 touchdowns his final season. In his high school career, by the way, 13,520 yards, 152 touchdowns, 5-star recruit. Was originally going to go to USC. Then he decommitted, and he went to Alabama instead. Now, what does that say? Pac-12, Big 12, these flashier schools, but these quarterbacks, that's where you want to go. Alabama, you'd want to go there if you're a receiver, a lineman, a running back, a otherworldly linebacker, pretty much any position but a quarterback. These top flight recruits go to. They don't go to Alabama. Now they do. Because they saw what they were able to build offensively. Now, granted, Steve Sarkisian had a top-flight offense for Alabama over the past couple of years. Now he's the new head coach over at Texas. Now Alabama has to replace him, and they're going with Bill O'Brien, the former Houston Texans head coach. Don't forget, he did coach in college. He was the head coach of Penn State, was rather successful. And in the early parts of his Texans career, was successful, just never got over the hump. And, of course, his personnel decisions were mind-bogglingly stupid. So he's back to the college ranks. But he'll be another Nick Saban reclamation project, and I have no doubt his offense back into the college game is going to work out well. But these quarterbacks are coming to Alabama now, and now they're a wide receiver factory as well. We saw last year Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy. This year, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith. All 4 of them were on the roster last year. 2 of them go to the NFL. The next 2 step up. They have great seasons. They're going to go to the NFL, be first-round picks. And now next year, you're going to have John Mechie. And I'm sure 3 other guys that are eventually going to be first-round picks. But Mechie was that guy early on in the season. We're like, who the heck is this guy? Even when Waddle was healthy alongside Smith, and of course Smith ended up winning the Heisman. But everyone's like, wow, John Mechie, he's the young buck of this group now. Where did he come from? They are literally a wide receiver factory. And Najee Harris stayed at school, and now he probably turned himself into a front end of the first round type of draft pick. He might be a top 15 guy, top 20 guy. I can't imagine him not going in the first round now the way he played this year. So it just goes to show you. The way he recruits quarterbacks now, it just invites everybody else to come. The offense is top flight, and they'll always eventually have a solid defense. Even if you look at this year where they weren't as good at the start of the year, now they always develop well under Saban. The Patrick Surtains of the world. Christian Barrymore, the defensive lineman. They're gonna be first round picks. Surtain can be a top 10 pick. You always have those guys. So it's amazing. Saban, defensive coach, they just constantly retool. They're not one of these champions who can win a couple titles over a 5-6 year period, but then fall off after. Or even just that's giving too much credit. They're not one of these schools that can win one national title and then have to rebuild for the next 3-4 years to get back to where they were. No, they just retool. That's all Alabama does. That's all they'll ever do as long as Nick Saban is the head coach. He has 7 national championships for a reason. They're going to probably do it again next year. So now, are you going to be interested? Of course you will, because people love to watch greatness. Either they love to watch greatness or they want to see who's going to knock off said greatness. That's probably where we're headed for next year. Again, Alabama, the favorite to win next year's national title. All right, we'll step aside and take a quick break. On the other side, we'll discuss more of the Urban Meyer situation. He's now officially the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach. Got to throw it in there just because of his great college football ties with Ohio State, Florida, Bowling Green, Utah, you name it. One of the greatest college coaches we've ever seen, and now he is off to the NFL. What that means for some of these prospects, what it means for some other college coaches, and of course we'll throw in the Trevor Lawrence factor in there as well. All right, keep it locked here. It is College Football Pick'em right here on AM 1490, Sports Betting Radio, presented by Harbor Jiu-Jitsu.
Betting college football? You've come to the right place. It's College Football Pick'em, presented by Harbor Jiu-Jitsu on AM 1490 Sports Betting Radio.
Welcome back to College Football Pick'em right here on AM 1490 Sports Betting Radio. I'm your host, Nick Kosko. We are presented by Harbor Jiu-Jitsu, located inside the Attilas Gym in Egg Harbor Township. Be sure to check them out at harborjiujitsu.com. Give them a like on Facebook and follow them on Instagram as well. Well, we talked Urban Meyer last week, and as we wrap up the college football season with our final show here this season, got to talk Urban Meyer once again because he crisscrosses now from college to the NFL. He is now the official Jaguars head coach. And what does that mean moving forward? Well, I don't think any other college coaches, and again, he was retired, so it's not like he's going straight from college to the NFL. It is his first NFL job after being a college coach for his entire career. But I don't think any other college coach is going to make that jump from head coach from college to head coach in the NFL this year. Although, you know what the Philadelphia Eagles are doing. They're trying to pry Lincoln Riley, maybe Ryan Day. They're trying to talk to them, but I don't think they're going to be either of them are going to be interested in that job or maybe any other job this season as well. But Meyer, he makes the jump. The deal was done yesterday. They made it official. He got off the private plane, signed the contract. He hasn't coached since 2018 because he's had health issues in the past, and of course, his previous health issues. He had bad migraines. He had a cyst in the brain area that due to stress. That was his latest health scare with Ohio State, so he retired. But we've seen this movie before. He has retired before because of the health issues. He's taking some time off, and he has the itch to coach, so he comes back. And he came back for Ohio State after he retired from Florida. And then, again, after Ohio State, he retired. And now it'll be the 2021 season. So it'll be 3 years in between him coaching. And he is back. It's as simple as that. So he can't resist the itch. He can't resist the itch to coach. He is back. But this was a little bit surprising considering he's going to go from everyone thought that maybe he would take the Texas job because we know the Texas Longhorns wanted him. Even though they hadn't officially said, Tom Herman, you're going to be gone, but they were recruiting Urban Meyer basically behind his back and wanted him. And if he said yes, they would have fired Herman on the spot, and they would have named the interim head coach and brought in Urban Meyer to fix the program. Now, everyone thought that's probably the next logical step. Everyone had the rumors of, is Urban Meyer going to take over Texas, because that's the next biggest job after he completed his time at Florida and Ohio State. You just couldn't see any other SEC job or a Big Ten job. You figure, okay, Meyer maybe to Texas, or maybe if USC wants to shake things up and just go big or go home, they would hire Urban Meyer as well. Those things have been rumored for years now since he left Ohio State. You figure, okay, when's he coming back? Just put a date on it. Let's predict a date when he comes back, what school, and it turns out none of them. Maybe the right time frame. People thought 2-3 years out of the game he'll come back, and he did, but he's going to the NFL this time. This is a fascinating choice by Urban Meyer. I know the LA Chargers recruited him hard and tried to get him in there and become their new head coach. They were very interested, but ultimately the Jacksonville Jaguars seemed to be the destination all along once the rumors and reports started popping up that the Jacksonville Jaguars were the NFL was going to be interested in Urban Meyer, and it just seemed like the Jacksonville Jaguars were going to be the team all along. They had the number one pick, and it's not like even if the Jets folks had the number one overall pick, you really think the Jets would have gone in on Urban Meyer? Probably not, and I don't think he would have been interested in that job. He knows the Florida area. We know this. It's obviously warm pretty much all year round, and the fact that they have the number one pick does help out. They have plenty of cap space. Lots of draft capital. This team could be competitive right away. Now, I'm not saying this team's going to make the playoffs in Meyer's first year, but you go from a 1-15 squad to maybe a 7-9 squad in 1 year. I could see it. I think Meyer has that much of an impact due to his ability as a head coach. Meyer is a program builder. That is no secret. And don't forget, despite the health scares and for how long he's coached, the guy's only 56. It's not like it's Nick Saban going to the NFL. Nick Saban's 68, 69 years old. It's not Meyer's not coming in, and he's not the same age as Bill Belichick, who's pushing 70, or Pete Carroll, who's also pushing 70. Meyer's 56. He's not even 60. He's in his mid 50s. He could coach this team for a while. Now, do I envision Meyer coaching this team for the next decade? No. I think he's going to be 5 years, 6 years, and he'll be done. I think the health issues will arise once again, because they usually do. Now, could he last longer than and push the decade mark with the Jacksonville Jaguars? Because it is the NFL. There's less stress on him because there's no recruiting. And don't forget, folks, it is Jacksonville. It's not like this team is winning a Super Bowl anytime soon. It's not like this team has ever won a Super Bowl. They've never been to a Super Bowl. It's actually unbelievable to me that this team was in the AFC title game 3 seasons ago, 2017, and they nearly knocked off the Patriots. That entire team does not exist anymore. So Meyer's a total rebuild job. So it's going to buy him at least 5 years, because Jacksonville is not going to be an antsy franchise with this guy. Meyer is a different breed because he is something they haven't really tried before. The Jaguars have tried established coaches in the NFL, whether it be head coaches, coordinators, you name it. They've tried that already. They brought in Tom Coughlin back to the organization in the front office, and that has not worked. That didn't work out. This is a different animal in Urban Meyer. When I tell you if you don't know his coaching record in college, your mind's about to be blown. 187-32. 187-32. This guy won at 5 times more games than he lost. It's unbelievable. And he's won 3 national titles. 2 at Florida, 1 at Ohio State. So the fact that he's able to win at multiple places, the peak of the fact that they got to the tippy top at two different places, that's amazing in itself. But 187-32. It's no Nick Saban record, obviously. Nick Saban's going to be winning 300 games by the time he's done. But even at Bowling Green, 17-6, 22-2 at Utah, 65-15 at Florida. And then my personal favorite, 83-9 at Ohio State. This guy almost coached 100 games. In fact, if he had coached, let's say 2 more seasons at Ohio State, let's even say through the 2020 season, you can make an argument that he might go undefeated for 2 more years. Let's say go, I don't know. Let's take the 29. So Ohio State was 13-1 in 20. Let's even give Meyer that. 96-10, and then let's just throw in this year with the COVID, and they go 7. Even if you just take Ohio State's last 2 seasons worth of games, it's 20-2 under Ryan Day. Put that under Meyer instead, because it's virtually the same team. 103-11. He barely lost double-digit games at Ohio State. If you had those last 2 seasons. So it's unbelievable. He builds programs wherever they go. Now, granted, Florida and Ohio State are more established historical programs in college football, But he took teams that were, middle of the pack. Even when he took over Ohio State, they were under 500. And he turns them around instantly. Instantly. NFL, of course, different animal. You can't recruit. You can't reset. Teams can have bad years. But again, the NFL is a parity league. So I truly believe Urban Meyer could turn this team around instantaneously. Now, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs next year. I think they can win 7 games. And if they do draft Trevor Lawrence, well, then Urban Meyer, he might as well coach the next 10 years because he has his franchise quarterback for the next 10 years. That's the biggest question. Is Meyer that's pretty much why he took this job. Again, they have the number 1 overall pick. They have, I believe, 11 draft picks in April. They have loads of salary cap space. So we know Urban Meyer's a great recruiter. If that translates to the NFL, these guys, even veterans, but young players in the NFL, they will buy into that because, again, he is a program builder. He has a track record of having success literally wherever he goes. And don't forget, the guy was fantastic on TV. He was absolutely brilliant to watch on television with Fox Sports over the past 2 years. The guy's a program builder. He can make something out of nothing. And Jacksonville is certainly nothing right now. And don't think that they're going to be buried in this AFC South. Again, we saw what the Titans and Colts did this year, both 11-5, but they both had first-round playoff exits. It's not like Tennessee and Indianapolis are world beaters right now that they're constantly battling for, deep playoff runs. And again, of course, Houston's a mess. They have their quarterback, though, but Houston's a mess. You don't know if they get the right head coach, they could turn it around on a dime next year. So the division could be competitive, but you don't know if Philip Rivers is going to retire. You don't know if the Colts are going to be as good this year. The Titans, they've had 2 good years in a row, but I would say they kind of overachieved this year. And then of course, they laid a duck in the playoffs laid an egg, in the playoffs against the Ravens. Jacksonville could be a pain. And again, they'll have a rookie quarterback, and there's going to be some growing pains. Meyer's going to have to adjust to the NFL game, and he's going to have to build the right staff. But if you don't think for 1 second that Meyer can't turn this thing around in a year or two, you're crazy. It's just a matter of how long is he going to coach? Will he coach 10 years? Will it be only 4, and then he steps away? How patient is Jacksonville going to be with him? Now, frankly, I think they will be patient because, again, as I mentioned before, he's a different type of coach they've hired than in the past. He's coming from college. It's his first NFL job. And, again, they'll have the number 1 overall pick, and presuming they take Trevor Lawrence, they'll give him plenty of time to develop him. They'll give him 4 or 5 years to develop Trevor Lawrence. And by the way Trevor Lawrence plays, the type of prospect he is for the NFL, he should be a pretty stable quarterback within a year or two at this level. And I'd say he would have rookie success in 2021, no doubt. It's just a matter of, is Jacksonville going to be patient with Urban Meyer, Trevor Lawrence, and whoever else for 3 years before they say, all right, now we need to start being competitive? Are they going to give them the 3-4 year window until year 5 and say, okay, now we need to be consistent in making the playoffs. We need to win the AFC South. We need to be a relevant franchise. And already, I just said it right there, relevant. People like to use that term a lot here in the South Jersey area. With certain Philadelphia franchises, like i.e. the Sixers, when they became relevant again, and they started winning after they tanked for a couple years. Jacksonville, you want to talk about a team that needs relevance in the Florida market. Urban Meyer just brought it to you right now. They're the most interesting team next year because of Urban Meyer, and especially if they get Trevor Lawrence. Other than your favorite team, what other team are you most willing to watch next year? I will watch Jacksonville Jaguar games next year because of Urban Meyer. We know what he does in college. I don't have to tell you again. 187-32, by the way. They're the most fascinating thing in the NFL next year. Meyer and Lawrence. There's no debate, by the way, for the number 1 overall pick. Trevor Lawrence will be the guy. It's not like Urban Meyer is going to play the Ohio State card and say, I'll take Justin Fields instead. Not happening. Justin Fields is going to go to the Jets. Zach Wilson's going to go to the Jets. One of those things will happen. or the Jets will skip entirely, and those two are going to fall. Trevor Lawrence is the guy. Now, if a guy like Ryan Day was the head coach in the NFL, I'd say he would screw with everybody and take Fields over Lawrence because he knows him. He's coached him, and they could develop together. But Meyer, Lawrence, the Jaguars, just mark it down now that they are going to be the most interesting team in the NFL next year. Now, what does that mean for other college coaches? Now, I know the Eagles have reached out to Lincoln Riley. He seems content for where he is right now, for now. And I use those words precisely and carefully, for now. That's what he said. According to reports, he's content with where he's at for now. I'm not saying the Eagles are going to get him. I'm not saying the Eagles are going to go out and get Ryan Day. They're more likely to get Lincoln Riley because he has a relationship with Howie Roseman. And I know Ryan Day worked with the Eagles a couple years ago under Chip Kelly. Neither of them are coming to the NFL, particularly the Eagles. They're going to stay where they're at. Ryan Day, in 2 years as head coach, has won 2 Big Ten titles, made the college football playoff twice, and he made the championship game this year. 1 game better. Next logical step, win it all next year. Granted, new quarterback. But if you were a college coach, now there are 2 openings gone. Jacksonville and the Jets. The New York Jets hired Robert Saleh, the 49ers defensive coordinator. But what else would you take? The only job that really screams at me that a college coach could be enticed by is the Chargers job. Because they have the quarterback in Justin Herbert, who these college coaches know anyway because he was only a rookie in 2020 and set the rookie passing records. He broke all those. Herbert seems like the real deal and arguably the best quarterback in the class last year right now. I'm still a Burrow guy, and he did get hurt, but Herbert looks like the real deal. I didn't think he was going to be this good this fast. But other than the Chargers, again, they were 7-9. This team is set up to win. You just need better game management. You need maybe Anthony Lynn. All respect to him. Seems like a great dude, great motivator. But you need a better coach in there, better head coach of that team. They were 7-9. They had the quarterback. They have a good offense. They have a solid defense. They have a heck of a defensive line. If you're a college coach, you would absolutely want to coach, particularly now, because if you look at Lincoln Riley and Ryan Day, or even look at Pat Fitzgerald of Northwestern, and these guys are offensive-minded guys. You'd want to coach a guy like Justin Herbert and that Chargers offense, and sprinkle in your college philosophies in there, and then you really run wild. But that team is built to win now. Other than that, the Jaguars was taken, the Jets were taken. The Texans right now, you have the quarterback, but J.J. Watt on the defensive side is older. The defense is getting older. And what else do you have on offense? Bill O'Brien messed it up already by trading away DeAndre Hopkins. So other than Deshaun Watson, what do you have? That organization seems to be an absolute mess. So why would you want to leave college to go to the Houston Texans? Atlanta Falcons, maybe. You have some offensive pieces. You have a veteran quarterback in Matt Ryan. You might draft one. So let's say a Ryan Day or Lincoln Riley went to Atlanta. They have the number 4 overall pick, I believe it is. You could draft Justin Fields or a Zach Wilson right there. Have your quarterback of the future. Groom him behind Matt Ryan, who probably has another 3. And realistically, Matt Ryan probably has another 3-4 years left. But how long is he going to last in Atlanta? Julio Jones, veteran receiver, but hey, he's still highly productive. Just got to reinvigorate him in the offense a little bit. So Atlanta, not too bad. Jets obviously taken, as I mentioned. The Lions, you might as well be going to your grave. It seems like that's where everyone goes to. All coaches go there to die. You have Matthew Stafford, but now you're going to need a new quarterback. Stafford can't be there forever. You have some nice running backs, solid receiver here or two. Detroit just seems cursed. So why would you go to Detroit if you're a college coach? And then of course the Eagles. The Eagles are a mess. If you don't care about personnel and power from the front office, then that's the job for you. If you like quarterback controversies, that's the job for you. Now, Lincoln Riley, I could see taking that job, if anything, because of Jalen Hurts. And they would trade Carson Wentz and eat all that money. Or for all we know, he would try to fix Carson Wentz, because Carson Wentz, in the end, is probably a more talented quarterback than Hurts. But you never know. But again, why would you take the Eagles job if you're Lincoln Riley, Ryan Day, or Pat Fitzgerald. The only job that you would take right now is the Chargers job. But it doesn't seem like the Chargers are interested in any other college coach besides Urban Meyer, and of course, he just signed with the Jaguars. So I don't expect these college coaches to make the jump from the college ranks to the pros this year, other than Urban Meyer, and plus he was retired anyway. So Lincoln Riley, Ryan Day, Pat Fitzgerald, you guys are going to be seeing them a lot more over the next couple of years in college. All right, we're going to step aside and take another quick break. On the other side, we will dive into next year's college football national title odds. Of course, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, they are still there, folks. They're not going away. Can anybody upend them next year? That's the biggest question. Keep it locked here. College Football Pick'em right here on AM 1490 Sports Betting Radio.
Now back to College Football Pick'em with Nick Kosko, presented by Harbor Jiu-Jitsu on AM 1490 Sports Betting Radio.
Final segment of the show right here on AM 1490 Sports Betting Radio. It's College Football Pick'em presented by Harbor Jiu-Jitsu, located inside the Attilas Gym in Egg Harbor Township. Give them a follow on Instagram, like them on Facebook, and check out harborjiujitsu.com. All right, well, we spent the entire show pretty much just wax poetic about Alabama and, of course, Urban Meyer. Alabama, of course, your national champions this season, and Urban Meyer, the new Jacksonville Jaguars head coach. So looking at next year, this is as of a couple days ago, the latest odds from William Hill in terms of what who are the favorites next year to win the national title. Mentioned it before. You have Alabama, you have Clemson, you have Ohio State. Those are your regulars, and I could spend another hour on college football playoff expansion. Is it really going to help? I mean, I'm for it, but it's not going to eliminate those top three teams, folks. If you're hoping for expansion, so the Alabamas, the Clemsons, and the Ohio States of the world do not win the title, I'm here to tell you that that's not the case. They will still be the favorites. They will still most likely be one of the three teams to bring it all home in the end, despite an expanded playoff. Now, I'm for it. I'm for an expanded playoff. I want 8 teams because I would have loved to seen, a 4th-seeded Notre Dame against a 5th-seeded Texas A&M this year. Actually, let me pull up those rankings from this year. I would have loved to see it. I didn't want to see a A&M Alabama rematch instead of Notre Dame getting there. Now, again, Notre Dame, I knew it was going to get killed anyway. But if we just go back to the top 8 this year, I would have loved to see this. Alabama. Excuse me. Those might not be right. That did not look right. Darn Google. Let's see. Here we go. Alabama 1, Clemson 2, Ohio State 3, Notre Dame 4, Texas A&M 5, Oklahoma 6, Florida 7, Cincinnati 8. There's your group of 5. Now, expanded playoff here, yes, would have loved to see it. Cincinnati, Alabama, Cincinnati probably has no shot, unfortunately, but you see Cincinnati, a group of 5 school, that's right, not a Power 5 school, in the playoff. Ultimately, that's what we want, folks. Ultimately, most people who want the college football playoff expansion are the people who want more parity in college football. You might not necessarily get it because, again, Bama, Clemson, Ohio State, and then throw in a 4th team in there. But those are your dominant forces in college football. Now, the parity comes in because if you add an extra round, you increase the chances for upsets. You give more teams a shot. It doesn't lessen the regular season. It gives you more incentive to play. But you still need a good resume. Particularly if you're a group of 5 school like Cincinnati, they were 9-0 going into the final rankings, and they were still number 8 behind Florida, behind Oklahoma, behind Texas A&M. They had multiple losses. So a Cincinnati-Alabama matchup, Alabama dominates probably. But how about Florida-Clemson? Imagine those offenses going at it. I know Florida didn't look good down the stretch of the year. But heck, I'm not going to rule out a Florida upset over Clemson. You kidding me? I know they got upset by LSU and they lost to Alabama, but they lost in a shootout to Alabama, and they were the closest team to beat Alabama all year. So can you imagine if Florida had to play Clemson in the first round in a quarterfinal? I would have loved to see that. Oklahoma, Ohio State. Oh, boy. That would have been awesome. A hot Oklahoma team against Ohio State who's trying to prove everybody wrong would have been fascinating. Justin Fields against Spencer Rattler. Ryan Day against Lincoln Riley. Oh, would have been great. A&M Notre Dame, the two teams who were complaining that they should have gotten the fourth spot. Can you imagine Texas A&M if they won to say, see, should have been number 4? Not that it would have mattered, of course, because in this scenario it's a quarterfinal. But it would have been awesome. So I'm for expansion. So reading the odds and the fact that I just mentioned what I mentioned: Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Notre Dame, A&M, Oklahoma, Florida, and Cincinnati. Look at the odds for next year. Alabama's the favorite, plus 300. Clemson's plus 400. Ohio State and Oklahoma, plus 750. Now you get into the bigger numbers. Georgia, plus 1,200. Notre Dame's plus 1,500. A&M plus 1,800. Iowa State plus 2,200. Texas, they're back in the conversation because they have Steve Sarkisian. They feel like he could turn around really fast. They're plus 2,500, and so is Florida. Virtually the same teams. So who did I not mention? So out of those teams, who was not in the top 8 this year? Iowa State and Texas. That's it. Everybody else are in Georgia. They were number 9. Aside from those 3 teams, the other ones were the ones I just mentioned in the top 8 from the end of this year. So it's going to be the same thing. But again, expansion helps. So don't say, oh, it's broken. System, it's not perfect. Believe me, the BCS wasn't perfect either. The playoff is good. But if you expand to 8, you get teams like the ones we just mentioned. Cincinnati has a chance now. Maybe a Coastal Carolina in a normal year, if they go undefeated and they dominate and they schedule maybe a Power 5 opponent or two, now they're in the conversation to sneak in as the number 8 seed. Heck, Northwestern was I know they're Big Ten, but Northwestern was in the conversation. BYU, they only have one loss because they lost to Coastal Carolina, but can you imagine if they won? They would have been number 12, number 11 this year. They could sneak in. They're an independent. They're not, Notre Dame's probably going back to being independent next year, but, out of the independents that are not named Notre Dame, you give more teams a shot. One loss is ultimately not going to kill you, at least in the Power 5. Group of 5 schools, well, that might kill you, unfortunately. And that's the unfortunate part about it. But expansion should happen, but those are your odds next year. Now, as far as who I'm going to put my money on for next year, of course, because they're all plus odds, you can make money. You'll make out either way. But I'd put my money on Alabama. If I'm going to take a flyer on anybody, man, it's tough because again, I don't see anybody beating them. They're going to get Bryce Young. Clemson reloads because they'll have DJ Uiagalelei as their new quarterback. Justin Ross, by the way, medical miracle, had a spine condition, and now he announced he's coming back next year. Great, that's just great for him. They'll lose Travis Etienne, but you get a top flight receiver back, which is great for Clemson. Ohio State's going to reload. As long as they figure out the quarterback position, which is probably going to be C.J. Stroud, Ryan Day can coach that team up. They're a contender. Oklahoma is my most fascinating. Florida, I don't know how they're going to retool, and Texas, I don't trust until I see more of them under Sarkisian. Iowa State will be in the mix, but Oklahoma to me is the top team in the Big 12. Georgia is going to be a pain for Alabama next year, but JT Daniels is actually a legit quarterback, and they figured it out a little bit too late. Georgia did. Notre Dame, they'll be back in a couple of years, but they're going to lose a lot of seniors. A&M going to be in the mix, but if I take a flyer on anybody, folks, how about Oklahoma? I like that right now, plus 750. I like those odds right now. Alabama's your favorite, and I would pick Alabama again to repeat. But I do like Oklahoma. Spencer Rattler's back. Lincoln Riley's back. We know his offense is nearly flawless, at least in the Big 12. They've won 6 straight conference titles, 4 under Riley. Make it 5 next year. Spencer Rattler is going to be in the Heisman conversation next year. He turned it up late after a sluggish start. So did the team as a whole. They're going to be dangerous next year. So out of those odds, I'm going to say Oklahoma. Give me my flyer on Oklahoma. If you're not betting Alabama, you got to bet Oklahoma. Take home the national title for next year. Way too early, of course. Don't forget, way too early. But we'll get there. We will eventually get back to college football. All right, that is going to do it for me, folks. What a season it's been. Appreciate you all coming in on your Saturday mornings and listening to me rant about college football, giving you your picks. Hopefully you guys did make some money this year. I was in the red a little bit, but hey, what are you going to do? Such is life. Such is the nature of sports gambling. Place those bets for next year. We will catch you next season, of course. Thanks for listening all season long from September until now. Enjoy the rest of the NFL season and enjoy college basketball. Enjoy the transition into spring, summer, and all of a sudden, folks, we're back with college football next fall. I'm Nick Kosko saying so long. You've been listening to College Football Pick'em right here on AM 1490 Sports Betting Radio presented by Harbor Jiu-Jitsu.